Blood off my hands, the judgment coming fast, too much blood on his lane. The second exodus is about to happen, he playing. He's sending out the winds on this rock, we gon' stand. We gon' trust the son of man. This the final album, was disconnected from the source, we done found the power. Messiah built the church back, gotta trust the founder. The carpenter, got the father with him, ain't no stopping you. Protected by the winds if you got his heart with you. Stand on the narrow, the father gon' provide, y'all his eyes on the sparrow. Never seen the righteous get forsaken.
He said he never seen the righteous get forsaken. He has never seen the righteous get forsaken. Let's give all praises, honor, glory, esteem to our Father, Yahawah, the Ancient of Days, the giver of life, our Father, our Abba, Yahawah, and his only begotten Son, Hamashiach Yahawah, who the world calls Jesus Christ. Hamashiach Yahawah is Hebrew. Hamashiach is the anointed one, the one who was smeared with oil, the Savior of the world. Shalawam, peace and blessings to all the Ahchyam, which are the brethren, and all of the Ahchwathyam, which are the sisters out there in the world. Peace and blessings, shalom to all, to the four corners of the earth. As you can see the title on this video, on this message, where do I begin to study? Where do I begin to study? A lot of people always wonder or have these questions or thoughts, especially when they just started reading the Bible, when they're just coming into the knowledge of the Bible, things of this sort. I remember for myself when I first started to read the Bible, because I didn't grow up in a church household or biblical household or something of that nature. And I first started to open the Bible up and read. I was actually starting in Genesis and Exodus, and I was told by an elder that I didn't need to read those things, to start in the book of Matthew and continue on, that we were in the New Testament. And there was somebody that was actually very dear to me and had been on this planet Earth for a very, very long time. So the things that they said, you know, I took it with value. So I did do that. But actually, when I read Matthew to Revelations, there was a lot of questions and things that I had. So other people that I spoke to said, no, you need to read the whole Bible. And I actually did go back and I started from Genesis to Revelation. So that will be the topic of today. Where do I begin to study when it comes to the Holy Bible, right? Do I start in the book of Matthew? Do I start in the book of John? Where do I start? You know, where's the starting point? So with that being said, once again, Shalawam. Shalom, peace and blessings to all of the Ahchyam, all of the brothers and all of the sisters, to the four corners of the earth. And always as we give praises to our Father for allowing us to wake up this day, for his mercy and compassion is new every morning. Therefore, we should put our trust in him, right? And let his word be a lamp to our feet, to lighten our path on our pilgrimage, our journey here on this earth. So with that being said, we'll get started. Dawada, once again, thank you for those that are tuning in and that will tune in later. Please make sure to hit the like, subscribe, share button, comment in the chat or comment after the video, but make sure to hit that like button, right? So I'm going to share my screen and we're going to go to the book of Proverbs, chapter 1. Let me make sure it's sharing. It is. So we'll go to the book of Proverbs. Let me blow it up for you. Proverbs chapter 1, right? And I'm going to start at verse 1. Salakia. The Proverbs of Solomon, the son of David, king of Israel. We know that Solomon was one of the wisest men that ever lived, and he got his wisdom from the Most High. So this is one of the books that he has written for us. To wisdom and instructions, to perceive the words of understanding, to receive the instructions or instruction of wisdom, justice, and judgment. See, this is very important when we look at this. He's breaking certain things down as soon as we get started. Wisdom, instruction, and to perceive the word of understanding. So one can read the Bible or open up the Bible and read it like a novel or a regular book of fiction or a nonfiction book. but they may not perceive, they may not understand what it is that they're reading. In their lives, a lot of the problem is because they just open up the book to read it. But you need to be spiritual to be able to open up the book and read it and perceive it, to have an understanding of what's being said, right? Verse 4, to give subtlety to the simple, to the young man knowledge and discretion. Verse 5, a wise man will hear and will increase learning. So the wise will hear, they will have an ear to hear, as the Bible says, those who have an ear to hear, let them hear. So a wise man will hear and will increase his learning, right? Because he's wise. He hear the words of the Most High and he's hearkening to them. He's taking heed to them and will increase learning. And a man of understanding shall attain unto wise counsel. Verse 6, to understand a proverb and the interpretation, the words of the wise and their dark sayings. So when you get into the Spirit and you ask for the Spirit, and before you read the book, you pray to the Most High for the Spirit, and he starts to open up your understanding. This is what this is saying right here. To get the interpretation of what it is that you're reading, the words of the wise, the people that were here, the prophets that were here before time, and the very dark sayings that they left behind for us, which in what? Parables, similitudes, right? So you can understand and break it down mentally and spiritually to be able to receive it so you can have the understanding. Verse 7 says, the fear of Yahweh is the beginning of knowledge. So before you can even receive that knowledge, just the very beginning of it is that you need to fear the Most High. It is not talking about somewhat of being scared of him, right? It's not talking about being scared of him. What it's talking about is actually respecting him. Yeah, there's a certain level of fear because every man that has a dad fears his dad in some type of way. But that doesn't mean he doesn't love his dad. That doesn't mean that there's not a mutual respect there. So it says the fear of Yahweh is the beginning of knowledge, but fools despise wisdom and instructions. That word despise, when you look into it, is like worthless. Like these people feel that they're above his commandments and his instructions. And that's what goes on in the world today. When you tell people about his commandments and they say that they're done away with, that they don't need them. Just a lot of things of that sort, right? So I want to go to another one real quick, 2 Timothy real quick. This is the book of 2 Timothy. And I'm going to jump down to the classic. 2 Timothy 2:15. It says, study to show thyself approved unto the Most High, a workman that needeth not to be ashamed. You don't need to be ashamed, right? Because you're a workman of who? The Most High Yahweh. And his only begotten Son, Hamashiach. So like your Christ. Rightly dividing the word of truth. You have to rightly divide the word of what? Truth. But you must study to show yourself approved. So where do we study at, right? That's what the topic of this discussion is. Where do we study at? Let me share my screen and go to this book of Sirach. I want to bring this out real quick. The book of Ecclesiasticus, or better known as the book of Sirach or Sirach, chapter 42 in the 1611 King James Bible, as you can see on the screen. Let me make sure sharing con it is. So this is chapter 42, and I'm going to jump down to verse 16, right? And it says right here, the sun that giveth light looketh upon all things, and the work thereof is full of the glory of Yahweh. Yahweh have not given power to the saints to declare all his marvelous work, which the Almighty Yahweh firmly settled, that whosoever is is might be established for his glory. It's only for his glory. He seeketh out the deep in the heart, and consider their crafty devices. For Yahweh knoweth all that may be known, and he beholdeth the signs of the world. So there's nothing that the Most High doesn't know that's going on in this world. Everything that happens, he knows about. He declared the things that are past and for it to come. So he tells you about the past and he tells you about the future, and revealeth the steps of the hidden things, things that we can't understand, right? Things that happen in this world, in this earth, that we don't understand. No thought escapeth him. There's no thought how we as human beings, we say, oh man, I forgot. I meant to do that. I forgot about, but no thought escapes the Most High, the Creator. Neither any word is hidden from him. So there's nothing that's spoken in this world, in this earth, that is hidden from him. He knows all things. He have garnished the excellent works of wisdom, of his wisdom, Salakia. And he is from everlasting to everlasting. Who is this? This is the Most High, the Ancient of Days. This is why one of his titles is called the Ancient of Days. That's in the book of Daniel, right? Because he's from everlasting to everlasting. Unto him may nothing be added, neither can it be diminished. So nobody can add anything to the Most High, and you can't diminish or take anything away from him. Why? Because he's from everlasting to everlasting. He have no need of any counselor. So if he's from everlasting to everlasting and he has no need for a counselor, wouldn't this be somebody that you would hearken to, that you would listen to, that you can trust in, because he's from everlasting to everlasting, and he left the very word for us, for our learning, right? So why wouldn't you want to study his word if he's from everlasting to everlasting? Oh, how desirable are all his works, Khan. And that a man may see even to a spark. All the things live and remain forever, for all uses, and they are all obedient. They are all obedient. So you have people today that are disobedient, and you have people that are obedient to the Most High. But it says all are obedient, right? All things. All things are double, one against another, and he have made nothing imperfect. So you might say, well, why is that person the way that they are? Why do they do the things that they do? Well, we know when you read the scriptures and you have that understanding that he will reveal to you, that person or individual was created that way. Because the Bible says that nothing was made imperfect. So when people say, for example, a homosexual or a lesbian or something of that nature, right? And they say, well, I was born this way, right? I always felt like this. I was made like this. They're actually correct. They're actually correct. The Most High made them that way, gave them that spirit to be that way, because he doesn't make anything imperfect. Now, you might say, well, why did he do something like that? Because he made certain vessels for honor and certain vessels for dishonor, right? We're going to get that. One thing established the good or another. See, one thing establisheth the good or another. So if you're not good, then you would be what? Evil or wicked. And who shall be filled with beholding his glory? Well, we know who is going to be able to see his glory and receive his glory. It will be the righteous, right? Let me get that and show you about those vessels, since I spoke on that real quick. Let me get the book of Romans real quick, only because I spoke on that. So I want you to be able to go to it yourself and actually see. That's what he said, the Most High, or through the Spirit. Paul said through the Holy Spirit, if you believe Paul had the Holy Spirit, right? This is the book of Romans. I'm going to jump down because I'm not going to read it all, but just to what I quoted. Okay, let me see. Yeah, verse 20. Nay, but O man, who art thou that repliest against the Most High? Shall the thing formed say to him that formed it, why hast thou made me thus? Right? And in any, let me see if it's in the Bible context. Let me see. New Living, it says in the New Living Translation, it says, no, don't say that. Salakia, don't say that. Who are you, a mere human being, to argue with the Most High, right? To argue with God. Should the thing that was created say to the one who created it, why have you made me like this? When a potter makes jars out of clay, doesn't he have the right to use the same lump of clay to make one jar for decoration and another to throw into the garbage? So he's likening or making an example of this thing for us as human beings. One you will throw in the garbage and one you will use in your home. But another one you will throw where? In the garbage. So you have some people that were created to be thrown in the garbage, and you have other people that were created for other reasons, right? In the same way, even though the Most High has the right to show his anger and his power, he is very patient with those on whom his anger falls, and who are destined for what? Destruction. So I just wanted to show you that in a different translation other than the King James, right? Because it basically says the same thing in the King James. Have not the potter power over the clay of the same lump to make one vessel into honor and another unto dishonor? So one vessel is made to honor, right? Those are the ones who follow the law, statutes, and commandments, the ones who seek after the Most High, the ones who want to walk and serve the Most High. And then you have another one, another lump that was made for what? Dishonor. So it is certain people that are created in the earth for what? Dishonor. But if you don't read, if you don't study, right, to show yourself approved, then how will you know these things? That's why it's important to read the whole Bible from Genesis to Revelation, not just some parts of the Bible. And I'm going to get into that a little bit. What if the Most High, willing to show his wrath and to make his power known, endure with much long suffering the vessels of wrath fitted for destruction, right? And you can continue to read that if you want. I encourage you to read the whole book of Romans, not just Romans chapter 9, but the whole book of Romans. But let's go all the way back to the beginning real quick. Let's go to Genesis chapter 1, right? The creation. And this is where I encourage everybody to start at Genesis chapter 1. And I just want to show you something real quick. Let me make sure it's sharing. Con it is. And showing you this, Genesis chapter 1. Let me clear my throat. Genesis chapter 1, it says, in the beginning, the Most High created, or Elohim, or Elohim for some of those who may know the modern Hebrew, created the heaven and the earth. Verse 2, and the earth was without form, and void, and darkness was upon the face of the deep. And the spirit of Elohim moved upon the face of the waters. And Elohim said, let there be light. And there was light. And Elohim saw that the light that it was good. And Elohim divided the light from what? Darkness. And he called the light day, and darkness he called night. And evening and morning were the first day. So we see some things happen right here. He created light, and then he separated that light, right? And he called that light day, and he called that night darkness, or darkness night, Salakia. Now, say you haven't read Genesis chapter 1, and you just happen to read just the New Testament, right? That's all you read. So we go to the book of John, chapter 11, right? You haven't read Genesis. When you open up the Bible and you started to study, you started from the New Testament, the book of Matthew, all the way down. So then when you get to John chapter 11, right here, and you read Yahawa's word, or Jesus, as it says here in the New Testament words, it says, Yahweh answered, are there not 12 hours in a day? If any man walk in the day, he stumbleth not, because he seeth the light of this world. Now, where does the light of this world come from? And how did we get this word day? Right? If you did not read Genesis 1, you lack the understanding of what happened prior to this. The reason Yahweh is saying this is because day was created for what? Light. And this is why he's saying if you walk in the day, you won't stumble, right? Referring to Genesis chapter 1, verse 1 and on down. So I believe verse 5 we read. Then in verse 10 right here it says, but if a man walk in the night, right, which is darkness. Remember, darkness was called what? Night in Genesis chapter 1. He stumbleth because there is no light in him. Why? Because he's walking in darkness. Darkness is referred to as what? Night from Genesis chapter 1. So what I'm saying is when you go into these different verses in the New Testament, you have a correlation of things from the Old Testament that you can refer back to, where you can get a greater understanding of what's actually being said by the apostles, by Yahweh, by all of the men that walk with him and that was with him, right? Let's get another one real quick. Let's go to the book of Exodus, just to show you. Exodus chapter 19. And I'm going to start at verse 3. This is the book of Exodus. Let me blow it up a little more. Chapter 19, and it's verse 3. And it says, and Moses went up unto the Most High, and Yahweh called unto him out of the mountain, saying, thus shalt thou say to the house of Jacob, and tell the children of Israel, ye have seen what I did unto the Egyptians, and how I bare you on eagle's wings, and brought you unto myself. Now, therefore, if you will obey my voice indeed, and keep my covenant, then, and only then, ye shall be a peculiar treasure unto me above all people, for all the earth is mine, and ye shall be unto me a kingdom of priests. Remember this saying, ye shall be unto me a kingdom of priests and a holy nation. These are the words which thou shalt speak unto the children of Israel, right? So if you just read this part right here, and it says, and Moses came and called the elders of the people and laid before their faces all these words which Yahweh commanded him. And all the people answered together and said, all that Yahweh have spoken, we will do. And Moses returned the words of the people unto Yahweh. And Yahweh said unto Moses, lo, I come in a thick cloud, and the people may hear when I speak with thee, and believe thee forever. And Moses told the words of the people unto Yahweh. And Yahweh said to Moses, go unto the people and sanctify them today and tomorrow, and let them wash their clothes, and be ready against the third day. For the third day, Yahweh will come down in the sight of all the people of Mount Sinai. Now, all that I read, I want you to focus on this one, where he said you will be a kingdom of priests. verse 6, right? 19 and 6. 19 and 6. Now, let's go, if you just read the New Testament. Let's go to 1 Peter chapter 2. For those who never read the Old Testament, right? You don't go into the Old Testament because you were told that you don't need that. That's done away with. You only need to read the New Testament. That's it, right? So I'm trying to show you that it's important for you where you should start to study from Genesis and read all the way to Revelation. Study everything. So say you only study the New Testament. When you read 1 Peter chapter 2, verse 9, and it says, right? It says right here in verse 9, but ye are a chosen generation, a royal priesthood. We just read that. Where did we read that? In Exodus 19. So Peter is quoting what? He's quoting Exodus chapter 19. But if you have never read Exodus, you wouldn't know what Peter is quoting. You would think Peter is quoting this himself. And these are his words. But these are not Peter's words. These are actually Moses' words from the Most High when he was making a covenant with his people. He's just reiterating what Moses said in Exodus chapter 19. But if you don't read that, if you don't go all the way back, like I say, to Genesis, then you won't realize that Peter is quoting Moses, a royal priesthood, Salakia, a holy nation. Same thing he said in Exodus 19, a peculiar people, that ye should show forth the praises of him who called you out of what? Darkness into his marvelous light. Did not the Most High call the children of Israel out of darkness, bondage? When he brought them out, in Exodus 19, he said, I brought you out and took you upon my wings. Verse 10 says in Peter, which in time past were not a people. When they were in darkness, when they were in bondage, they were not a people. They were just considered what? Slaves. It was considered property. That's what they were considered, property. But are now the people of who? The Most High, which have not attained mercy, but now have obtained mercy. Now you receive the mercy of the Most High in his only begotten Son, Hamashiach Yahawah, Christ, the anointed one. Then he says in verse 11, dearly beloved, I beseech you, meaning to beg you, I beg you as strangers and pilgrims, abstain from fleshly lusts, meaning don't do it. Don't partake in the fleshly lusts, which war against the soul. So I'm just showing you that if you have not read the book of Exodus, when Peter is quoting these things, you won't know what Peter is quoting if you have not read the book of Exodus, right? Another thing, just a normal thing in today's age, the time that we live in, right? And you see everything that's happening in the world, just a normal day. And you see people out here with different flags, different colors, different things like that. But say you never read, you only read the New Testament. You never really read the Old Testament. So how will you know when you go, if you never read the Old, right? We can go to Genesis, right? Chapter 9, all the way back in the beginning. Like I say, Genesis chapter 9. And we'll start at verse 9. And it says, and I, behold, I establish my covenant with you. So here's a covenant in Genesis chapter 9 that the Most High, the creator of heaven and earth, is establishing a covenant with someone right here. We need to know who is this covenant with. But if you don't read Genesis, then you won't know about this covenant. So that's why it says, where do I start? You need to start at the beginning. Let me continue to read. I establish my covenant with you and with your seed after you and with every living creature that is with you, of the fowl, of the cattle, and of every beast on the earth with you, from all that go out of what? The ark. So who is he talking about? Who was in the ark? To every beast of the earth. And I will establish my covenant with you. Neither shall all flesh be cut off any more by the waters of the flood. So now we understand who it's talking about. It's talking about the flood. Neither shall there be any more, Salaki, neither shall there any more be a flood to destroy the earth. And the Most High said, this is the token of the covenant which I make between me and you and every living creature that is with you for perpetual generations. So this is forever, right? So this covenant stands today in 2025. This covenant is actually still standing today, March 20th, because this is live, 2025, right? Genesis chapter 9, verse 13. I do set a bow in the cloud, and it shall be for a token of a covenant between me and the earth. So the very rainbow that you see in the sky when it rains and it gives off that rainbow, that's what it's talking about. That's a token, which is a sign from the Most High and a covenant between him and the earth. That rainbow that you see. But if you don't read Genesis and you only read the new covenant, you would not know that that's a covenant that he made not only with Noah and his sons, but he made it with the fowls of the air. He made it with the cattle, with every living thing that's on earth, right? He made this covenant with them also. Not just Noah, but every living thing. And it shall come to pass when I bring a cloud over the earth that the bow, which is the rainbow, people call it today the rainbow, shall be seen in the cloud. So every time you see a rainbow, it doesn't mean that you're gay. It doesn't mean that you're homosexual. They have taken that and used that, right? But before they used that and took it to use it for that, it was known as what? The covenant that the Creator made, that he would not destroy the earth with a flood ever again. Verse 15, I will remember my covenant, which is between me and you and every living creature of flesh. So it's not only a covenant with man and women, it's a covenant between every living creature, all flesh. Whatever is here on the earth, this covenant is with you. And the water shall no more become a flood to destroy all flesh. And the bow, which is the rainbow, shall be in the cloud, and I will look upon it, that I may remember the everlasting. This is how you know it's an everlasting covenant. It's not over with. I will remember, Salaki, the everlasting covenant between the Most High and every living creature of all flesh that is upon the earth. And the Most High said unto Noah, this is how you know who we talking about, Noah. This is the token, meaning the sign of the covenant, which I have established between me and all flesh that is upon the earth. So anytime you see a rainbow, the reason you see the rainbow, the reason it's there in the sky when it rains or something, is because that's a covenant, a sign, a token that the Creator made with Noah and all flesh and every living creature that's upon the earth. But you wouldn't know that if you only start reading the New Testament from Matthew to Revelation. You would not even know that. You would think it was something that the homosexuals have. This is what I mean. Where do you start? You have to start at the beginning. We must start at the beginning, right? Let me get another one. I'm just trying to show you that it's important for us to start at the beginning. Where do I begin to study, right? You start and study at the beginning. Let me get another one. Let's go to the New Testament. 1 Corinthians chapter 5. 1 Corinthians chapter 5, right? Here we go. This is Paul, our brother. It is reported commonly that there is fornication among you, and such fornication as is not such as named among the Gentiles, that one should have his father's wife. So this is what's going on. There's a man that is sleeping with his father's wife, his dad's wife. And Paul gets reported this. This is the New Testament. And then Paul says in verse 2, and ye are puffed up, and have not rather more, that he that had done this deed might be taken away from among you. Paul is like, why haven't you guys kicked this guy out? Why haven't you separated yourself from this guy? Verse 3, for I verily am absent in the body, but present in the spirit, have judged already, as though I were present concerning him that have so done this deed. So Paul said, even though I'm not there in the flesh, I'm there in the spirit, and I have already judged this matter, right? I already know what the conclusion of this matter is. This is what Paul is saying, right? Verse 4, in the name of our master, Yahawashi HaMashiach, when ye are gathered together in my spirit of the Rakah, with the power of our master, Yahawashi HaMashiach, to deliver such a one, or to deliver such an one unto Satan, Hasatan, for the destruction of the flesh, that the Rakah, or the spirit, may be saved in the day of our master, Yahawashi. Your glorying is not good. Know ye not that a little leaven the whole lump? Purge out, therefore, the old leaven. Get that old sinful nature off of you. Get it out of there, for it mess up everything and drag you down. It will drag you down and cast you down to the pits of that lake of fire, right? Get that old leaven away from you. This is what Paul is saying. Get it out, that you may be a new lump, as ye are unleavened. For even Hamashiach, our Passover, is sacrificed for us. Now, why is Paul so upset? Where is he getting this from, that it's wrong for you to sleep, as it says in verse 1, that this guy is sleeping with his father's wife? Well, let's go to it, right? We're going to go to the book of Leviticus. But if you don't go back, like I say in study at the beginning, you wouldn't really understand why Paul is upset. Paul is upset is because they're breaking the law, right? 18:1, Leviticus. It says, and Yahweh spake unto Moses, saying, speak unto the children of Israel, and say unto them, I am Yahweh, your power. After the doings of the land of Egypt, wherein ye dwelt, ye shall not do. After the doings of the land of Canaan, whither I bring you, right, you shall not do. Neither shall you walk in their ordinances. Verse 4, ye shall do my judgments and keep my ordinances to walk therein. I am Yahweh, your power. Ye shall keep my statutes and my judgments, which if a man do, he shall live in them. I am Yahweh. Verse 6, none of you shall approach to any that is near of kin to him, to uncover their nakedness. I am Yahweh. Leviticus 18 and verse 7. The nakedness of thy father or the nakedness of thy mother shalt thou not uncover. She is thy mother. Thou shalt not uncover her nakedness. This is why Paul is upset, because they're in sin and they're breaking what? The law. Here it is, Leviticus 18:8, the very thing that 1 Corinthians chapter 5 is speaking about, and why Paul says, I have already judged this matter. If you did this, you are in sin. Why? Because it's transgression of the law. Leviticus 18 and verse 8, the nakedness of thy father's wife, which it was speaking about in 1 Corinthians chapter 5, verse 1, it says what? Shalt thou not uncover. You cannot sleep or even see your father's wife naked. You just can't. That goes against the very law that was created, and it was given to Moses from the Most High. The nakedness of thy father's wife shalt thou not uncover. It is thy father's nakedness. Verse 9, the nakedness of thy sister, the daughter of thy father, or, because you got some people, well, that ain't my blood sister. Yes, it is. Listen, or daughter of thy mother. So just because it's not your dad didn't have her, but your mother had another child, that's still your sister. Whether she be born at home or born abroad, meaning she was born through somebody else, even the nakedness thou shalt not uncover. The nakedness of thy son's daughter, of thy daughter's daughter, even the nakedness thou shalt not uncover, for theirs is thy own nakedness. The nakedness of thy father's wife's daughter, begotten of thy father, she is thy sister, thou shalt not uncover her nakedness. The nakedness of Salakia, thou shalt not uncover the nakedness of thy father's sister. She is your father's nearest kinswoman. And it just keep going on and on and on. But you get the logistics of what I'm saying is it's important for you to go back and read these things so not only you can know, but you can understand what Paul, Peter, Bartholomew, James, and everybody else was writing in the New Testament. The reason they're writing these things is because it's from old. It had already been established. But if you just jump right into Matthew and read from Matthew to Revelation and you think you got it, no, you don't. You definitely don't. Let's get a couple more. Let's get a couple more. 2 Timothy. And I'm gonna go with 1. Right? 2 Timothy. Second Timothy chapter 1, verse 7. That's what I want. 2 Timothy 1 and 7. And it says, for the Most High have not given us a spirit to what? Fear. Did Timothy write this? No. Paul wrote these letters to Timothy, right? So it says, for the Most High have not given us a spirit of fear, but of power and love and sound mind. Be not therefore ashamed of the testimony of our master, nor of me his prisoner, but be thou partaker of the affliction of the gospel according to the power of the Most High, who have saved us and called us with the holy calling, not according to our works, but according to his own purpose and grace, which has given us, which was given us in Hamashiach Yahawashi before the world began. So this has happened before the world even began. Now, in verse 7, it says he haven't given us a spirit of fear, right? This is Paul speaking to Timothy, letting Timothy know, don't fear. But where does it derive? Did it just get it? Did they just get it? Did it just happen? No, let's go all the way back. Watch this. We're going to go to Yahawashi, who the world would call Jesus, right? But they call it Joshua. But Yahawashi and Joshua had the same name, right? Letting you know there's something wrong with that J because they had the same name. But anyway, let's right here, Joshua chapter 1, verse 7, and it says, only be thou strong and very courageous. Same thing that Paul is writing to Timothy, right? Only be thou strong and very courageous, that thou may observe to do according to all the law. Same thing Paul is writing, which Moses my servant commanded me. Turn not from it to the right hand or to the left, that thou may be prosperous whatsoever thou goest. The book of the law shall not depart out of thy mouth, but thou shalt meditate therein day and night. Day and night. that thou mayest observe to do according to all that is written therein, right? All that is written therein. For then thou shalt make thy way prosperous, and then thou shalt have good success. Here it is, verse 9. Have not I commanded thee? Same thing Paul is telling Timothy. Be strong. Be strong. Be strong. The same thing Paul is saying. Be not afraid. Neither be thou dismayed. For Yahweh thy power is with thee whithersoever thou goest. Don't be afraid. Why? As Paul is saying, because we wasn't given that spirit of what? Fear. We just wasn't given it. This is way back again in the book of Joshua. And we can continue to go on and on and on, right? It's important. Let me get another one. The book of Deuteronomy. Let's go here. Chapter 4. See how I keep going back, and then I can go to the New Testament too. I can go to the old to the new to make it, to bring it together, to what? Harmonize it. Because you have to go to the old, or you have to go back to understand the new. Verse 1, it says, now therefore hearken, O Israel, unto the statutes, unto the judgments which I teach you, for to do them, that ye may live and go in and possess the land which Yahweh your power of your fathers giveth you. You shall not add unto the word which I command thee, neither shalt thou diminish out from it, that ye may keep the commandments of Yahweh your power which I command you. Right? So it's two things right here that we see. One coming out of the book of Revelation, which we'll go to, and then here's another one. Your eyes have seen what Yahweh did because of Baal Peor. For all the men that follow Baal Peor, Yahweh thy power have destroyed them from among you. So what is the Bible talking about? What do you mean you destroyed them? What happened? If you haven't went back and you have read from Genesis and you just jump to Deuteronomy, then you wouldn't know what it's talking about. You wouldn't understand what it's talking about. But let's go back a few books, right? Just to see what's going on. This is why it's important to read everything. So, let me get the book of Numbers real quick. So we'll go to the book of Numbers. Actually, I'm going to get it in the NL because I want you to be able to see it from your own eyes. This is the book of Numbers, chapter 25, and verse 1. While the Israelites were camped at Acacia Grove, some of the men defiled themselves by having sexual relations with local Moabite women, which they're not supposed to do. You're not supposed to be sleeping with other nations of women. Verse 2. These women invited them to attend sacrifices to their gods. So the Israelites feasted with them and worshiped their deities of Moab. In this way, Israel joined the worship of who? Baal Peor. So this is what it's speaking about in the book of Deuteronomy. But if you just jump to the book of Deuteronomy and say, I'm not going to read Genesis, Exodus, Numbers, I'm not going to read that. I'm just going to the book of Deuteronomy, and that's going to tell me everything that I need to know. Well, you wouldn't know about this that happened. You would be lost when it's speaking about this in Deuteronomy 4. You would have to go back and read this for yourself to know what happened. What did the Israelites do? Well, it says right here in Numbers 23, they joined in worship to who? Baal, which is Satan, causing Yahweh's anger to blaze against his people. Yahweh issued the following command to Moses, and he said, seize all the ringleaders and execute them before Yahweh in broad daylight, so the fierce anger will turn away from the people of Israel. So Moses ordered Israel judges, each of you must put to death the man under your authority who have joined worship of Satan, basically, Baal Peor. Just when they were going over this and saying this, just then, one of the Israelite men brought a Midianite woman into his tent, right before the eyes of Moses. They're doing this right in front They're doing these things right in front of Moses, the prophet of the Most High. It says right before the eyes of Moses, and all the people, as everyone was weeping, they're crying at the entrance of the tabernacle. When Phinehas, the son of Eleazar and grandson of Aaron, the priest, saw this, he jumped up and left the assembly. He took a spear. He got a spear in his hand now and rushed after that man into his tent. And Phinehas thrust the spear all the way through that man's body and into that woman's stomach. So the plague against the Israelites was stopped, but not before 24,000. 24,000 Israelites died that day. So if you just read Deuteronomy chapter 4, and it's just speaking about that, but you don't know the actual event that happened when the Israelites fell and started worshiping Baal Peor, Satan, Hasatan, and you don't know that you lost 24,000 of your brethren that day because they went off and went astray and started worshiping other deities. That's a big part of it that you missed. So you have to go all the way back to the beginning so you don't miss those things, right? So you can understand what it's talking about in Deuteronomy 4 and 3 right here. That's very important. The other one, when it says right here, Deuteronomy 4 and 2, you shall not add to the word which I command you, or neither shall it diminish. That's where everybody let's get it. In the New Testament, the book of Revelations, (22) verse 18, right? But if you just started, like I said, the New Testament, and you read this in Revelation, you're like, oh, John wrote this. And that's what but John is regarding what? The Old Testament. He's just reiterating what's being said. For I testify unto every man that heareth these words of this prophecy of this book, not just the New Testament, but the whole book. If any man shall add unto these things, the Most High shall add unto him the plagues that are written in this book. The plagues. It's a lot of plagues that are written in this book, not just the New Testament, but the Old Testament. When the people received the Ark of the Covenant and they started receiving tumors, which was cancer, that's a plague. But you wouldn't know that if you wouldn't read where the Philistines stole the Ark of the Covenant. And the Most High put a plague on them. Verse 19, and if any man shall take away from the words of this book, of this prophecy, the Most High shall take away his part out of the book of life and out of the Kodash, or holy city, and from the things which are written in this book. So you have to understand the things that are being said here and the things that are going on. We have to read the whole entirety of the book, right? We have to read the whole entirety of the book. Let's go back to Deuteronomy real quick, since we was right there. Deuteronomy chapter 4, and I'm going to jump down, right, to verse 6. It says, keep therefore and do them, for this is your wisdom and your understanding in the sight of the nations, which shall hear all these statutes and say, surely this great nation is wise and understanding people. So why, my question, if you do watch this or are watching this, my question is, why do people say that the commandments are done away with? Well, and right here in the book of the Torah, it says, if you keep therefore and do them, for this is your wisdom and your understanding in the sight of all, or in the sight of the nations, right? In the sight of all people. Nations just mean peoples. Which shall hear all these statutes and say, surely this great nation is a wise and understanding people. A wise and understanding people. So why is the world telling us today, and have been telling us for thousands of years, that you don't have to keep or follow the laws and statutes of the Most High? But if you do follow them, it makes you wise. But if you don't follow them, it makes you a fool. Verse 7 says, for what nation or what people is there so great? This is what the Bible is saying. What people is so great who have the Most High so nigh unto them, so near to them, as Yahweh, our power, is in all things that we call upon him for? And what nation or people is there so great that have statues, right? This is what makes you a great nation of people. The Bible is telling us this in verse 8. That have these type of what? Statutes and judgments so righteous. These statutes and judgments are so righteous as all this law. So if the law, the statutes, the judgments are so righteous, why would he get rid of that? Which I set before you this day. Verse 9 says, only take heed to thyself and keep thy soul diligently, lest thou forget the things which thy eyes have seen, and lest they depart from thy heart all the days of thy life. But teach them thy sons and thy sons' sons. So these are the things that we should be teaching our children, our sons and daughters. Not about Drake, not about Kendrick Lamar, not about Kobe Bryant, LeBron James, or who could throw the best football, or whatever else is going on in this world. You should be teaching your sons about this, the word of the Most High, to actually give them a chance to have life and not be in darkness, not be children of the night. Especially the day that thou stoodest before Yahweh thy power in Horeb, when Yahweh said unto me, gather me the people together, and I will make them hear my words, that they may learn to fear me all the days that they shall live upon the earth, and that they may teach who? That's who we need to teach, our children. That's why we do these messages. That's why I do these messages. That's why I teach my children. That's why my children know. They can't say dad didn't teach me. They can't say dad didn't let me know. They can't say that. You know, unfortunately, my dad wasn't there to teach me, but through the Spirit, through the Most High, I still obtained this mercy and knowledge and wisdom before I left this earth. And I give all praises, honor, and glory, esteem to the Father for that. It says in verse 11, and ye came near and stood under the mountain, and the mountain burned with fire unto the midst of heaven, with darkness, clouds, and thick darkness. And Yahweh spake unto you out of the midst of the fire. Ye heard the voice of the words, but saw no similitude. Only ye heard the voice. And ye declared, Salakia, and he declared unto you his covenant, which he commanded you to perform, even the what? 10 commandments. And he wrote them upon 2 tables of stone. And Yahweh commanded me at that time to teach you statutes and judgments, that ye might do them in the land whether you go over to possess it. And that's the land that flows with what? Milk and honey, the kingdom. Take ye therefore good heed unto yourselves, for you saw no manner of similitude on the day that Yahweh spake unto you in Horeb out of the midst of fire, lest ye corrupt yourself and make a what? Graven image. And it's the same thing today. Look at all these graven images within the churches, within the community, even our community. They have graven images. They may have not made a statue of it, but they have pictures of it on their shirts, on billboards, on certain things. Those are images. The similitude of any figure, the likeness of what? It tells you right here in the Bible, male or female. Don't do it. Don't do it. But see, you wouldn't know these things, and you wouldn't know it's wrong to have those statues. You wouldn't know it's wrong to have those graven images if you don't go back and study from the beginning. The likeness of any beast that is on the earth, the likeness of any winged fowl that flieth in the air, the likeness of anything that creepeth on the ground, or the likeness of any fish. Those people riding around with the little fish on the back of their car that is in the waters beneath of the earth. Don't do it. Don't have it. And he also says, unless thou lift up thy eyes unto heaven, and when thou seest the sun and the moon and the stars, even all the hosts of heaven, should be driven to worship what? Them. You have people that worship the sun, you have people that worship the moon, the stars, and all of those different hosts. And it's telling, the Most High is telling us through Moses here, do not worship those things. But he's saying some people are going to be driven to worship them and serve them, which Yahweh thy power have divided unto all the nations under the whole heaven. But Yahweh have taken you and brought you forth out of an iron furnace, even out of what? Egypt, to be unto him a people of inheritance, as ye are this day. Furthermore, Yahweh was angry with me for your sakes, and swore that I should not go over the Jordan. This is Moses speaking for what he did, and that I should not go into that good land which Yahweh thy power giveth thee for inheritance. But see, I'll leave it right there. But this is what I say at the end of the day. This is why we must go and we must read and we must go back to all what's being said, the understanding of what's being said in the scriptures, and go all the way back to the beginning. So it says, where do I begin to study? At the beginning. That's where you must start. And that was just a couple. Like I say, it's many more that we can go into, but I don't feel like I need to drag this out, but if you feel like you need more, please comment, send me an email. You see it's on the screen at this present time. Just let me know and we'll give you more, Hopefully it was edifying to build you up. That's what it means to edify. Hopefully you get some understanding from that. Where do I begin to study the word of the Most High Yahweh? At the beginning. And he has given us the Holy Bible, which is Genesis to the book of Revelation. I encourage you to get you a 1611 King James Bible, because there were certain books that were removed at a later time. So I encourage you to get you a 1611, and that way you will have that whole, as they call it, the Apocrypha or the lost books, and then you can get a better understanding with that. That's the 80, right? And then they have the regular King James Bible, which are the 66 books that most people have today. So with that being said, I'm getting ready to get out of here. Hopefully, like I say, it was edifying for you, and you can get something from it. Let me know, like I say, in the comments. And that's pretty much all I got. So start at the beginning, from Genesis to Revelation, read it all. Take your time. Don't rush through it. Take notes. Go into the Hebrew. Go into the Greek. And just don't rush. And before you read, before you do anything, pray about it. Ask the Spirit to help you, guide you, and strengthen you. And with that, I give all praises, honor, glory, esteem to the Most High Yahawah and His only begotten Son, Hamashiach Yahushai. And I say Shalawam and Kwam Yasharallah. And may you have a Barak day. And with that, Shalawam, Kwam Yasharallah.